Okay, there we go. So instead of Jai Radha Madhava, we will sing this bhajan by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, which is about Lord Chaitanya and chanting the holy name. So you have to listen very carefully because the melody has some. It's not that hard, but it doesn't change there's some spaces, gaps. So you have to listen. So maybe you've sung this before, maybe not. Gai Gora Madhur Sware. Everybody. Gai Gora Madhur Sware. Gai Gora Madhur Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Grihe tako vane tako Radha Madhava Naam bolo re, Kona Chaitanya pe Naam bolo re, Bhai Gaura Madhusware. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Jivana hoilo shesha, na bhajile rishikesha. Bhakti vinodopadesha, ek baar naam rasmato re. Vinodopadesha, ek baar naam rasmato re. Bhai Gaura Madhusware. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Nithai Gaura Brahmanande, Hare Hare. So we can. Someone want to read the first verse very loudly? Translation of the first verse. Just do it immediately. You don't need to be asked. One by one, 4 verses.
Rama sings in a very sweet voice. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Number
Whether you
2.
are a household or a sannyasi, constantly chant Hari Hari. Do not forget this chanting, whether you are in a happy
Close.
condition or in a distressful one. Just fill your lips with the Hari Nama.
Is that all of them? Number 3.
You're bound up in the network of Maya and are forced to toil fruitlessly. Now you have obtained full consciousness in the human form of life to chant the names of Radha Madhava.
Your life may end at any moment, and you have not served the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha. Take this advice of Bhaktivinoda Thakura, just once relish the nectar of the holy name. So this is a very nice song. Actually, in the olden days, as it were, of ISKCON, in the 60s and 70s, this was one song which was often sung. So it's good to learn the Vaishnav bhajans or the songs of worship because they help to provide the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in an easily digestible way. Actually, from I think almost all of the aratis, there are songs which we can sing, right? So generally in ISKCON, we sing the Guru Vashtakam in the morning during Mangalarti. Then we sing the Guru Vandana, at least some of it, during the Guru Puja in the 7 o'clock, 7:30. For midday, there is a song which is recommended, which we sang yesterday, the Bhoga Arati song. So midday Arati after Krishna is supposed to be during or just after when Krishna is eating. And then there is also Gaura Arati song. And some of these songs Prabhupada took from the Gaudiya Math, from his Guru Maharaj's institution, and some of them he put himself. They used to sing, for instance, in Gaura Arati, 2 songs. They would sing the Gaura Arati, Jai Jai Gaura Chande, Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande, and then they would also sing the Jai Jai Radha Krishna Yugala Milan. That's also an evening Arati song. So we can actually sing that also in ISKCON sometimes, after the Gaura Arati. So all of these bhajans are meant to be learnt. And there are different types of bhajans. And it's explained, I forget which Acharya, I was trying to remember. But I think it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He said that, what was it? And one of the Acharyas said that the songs of the Acharyas, they're non-different than scriptural evidence or scriptural conclusions. So they are considered non-different. So they actually have a great weight, great importance. And sometimes people say, oh, but it's very hard to sing, people can't follow. But the only reason they can't follow is because we don't sing it. We can follow everything else, but because we already sung it. Like Shikshastakam is much harder than this, but everyone can follow. Why? Because they do it. So you can't follow things because we don't practice them, but if you practice it, you can follow it. So it's simple. So even the Hare Krishna mantra, when people are new, they cannot follow, but when you teach them, they can follow. So we're going to now go to chapter 24 of the 3rd canto. And there are 3 verses, I think. 3 verses we're going to study. So please repeat the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, actually I just found a very nice thing I wanted to share, which is described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There are 10 types of bhajans or songs or prayers which we can sing. So, in prarthana means to pray. So the first one is, it's not on the board of course, the first one is samprarthanatmika, which means direct prayers addressed to Krishna. Just like when Lord Brahma sang Govindam Adipurusham, he was directly addressing Krishna. Or like Yashomati Nandan, or like, I think Jayarada Madhav also. So songs like that, they're directly addressing to Krishna. Then Swadainya Bodhika. So there are songs which are expressing humility. Just like Hari Hari Bifale, or there are many songs, especially of Narottam Das Thakur. When you read them, they seem to be what is called in English, in a technical sense, self-deprecating. You know what that word means? Like depreciating yourself. Like, I am so fallen, I am so lowly, etc. So that is one actually symptom of an advanced devotee. The more advanced they become, the more humble and lowly they feel. Not the more they think, I'm becoming big and great, famous, popular, wealthy, etc. They feel, the greater you become, then the more you realize how big Krishna is, so then you actually feel smaller, ironically. The third one is called Mana Shiksha. Anyone heard of a book called that? Anybody know? Some of you heard. So this is another type, instructing one's mind. Just like there is one song, Gopinath, Mama Nivedana Shuna. So many of the things there, he's addressing his mind. So instructing one's mind, because why? The mind is where Maya attacks us, right? So actually the only way material energy can defeat us or conquer or invade us is through the mind. So therefore Mana Shiksha, to deal with the mind. I heard something very nice. by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj recently. He was discussing about this topic, and he was explaining how, why is the mind in the Gita called the best friend and the worst enemy? There are two extremes, right? The best and the worst. It's not like average friend or an average enemy, but the best and the worst. Because the best friend and the worst enemy, they both have a power over you because they know your mind very well. They know you very well. They know your weaknesses and strengths, right? Your best friend is one who you confide in, right? They know you're able to be vulnerable with them and share your... We can see, no? Are you two best friends? Yeah? So you can share your mind intimately with... Actually, this is a very important thing just in general life, to have a friend like that. And your worst enemy also can do the same thing. They know your intimate weaknesses and strengths, and they know how to defeat you based on that, or how to, lower you down. Number 4, vilapmika, which means extreme lamentation. So sometimes we read some bhajans and we're like, whoa, he seems very, very sad that he rejected Krishna. There are some songs by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, why did I reject you and come to this world? Then Vaishnava Mahima Prakashika, which means to glorify the devotees. So there are some songs glorifying devotees, just like Yadi Gaura Nahaito. Then my Guru Maharaj made a song, Yadi Prabhupada Nahaito, which means what if Lord Chaitanya never came? It's a very famous bhajan. And then my Guru Maharaj wrote one, what about if Srila Prabhupada never came? And then we hear about Jayanila also, right? So different names are there. And even in Hari Harai Nama Krishna, some of the devotees are mentioned also. So different songs. Then Guru Vaishnave Vigyapti Rupa. So that means to glorifying the relationship between the disciple and the Guru. Like Guru Vandana, like Samsara Dava praise, etc. So the Guru Vandana, especially we're singing for Srila Prabhupada, is actually a longer song. So one day you can also sit down and complete the whole song, but it's very long. I think we only sing how many verses? 4 or 5? Something like that. And then number 7, Sridhama Vase Lipsatmika, which means statements revealing eagerness to reside in a holy place. So how many of you have been to India, to the Holy Dham? Many of you, huh? You didn't go? You went, no? I think everyone almost. So we can feel the difference when you're residing in a holy place, your spiritual practice becomes very strong. So this is a songs which are appreciating that principle. Then Sadhaka Dehe Lalash Suchika, which means basically songs describing the experience as a sadhaka, as someone who is practicing devotional service in the literal sense, who is trying to become a devotee. And then the next one is Siddha Dehe Lala Samai. So then expressing yourself as already a realized soul. So you're speaking to Krishna or Radharani or great souls from the point of view that I am in my spiritual form. So those are more intimate songs. So there's also some songs like that by acharyas and books like that. And the last one is Akshepa Bodhika, which means it's another type of lamentation. So 3 types of songs, they have a lamentation. Imagine. So there's one which is, where is it up there? So about humility. Then there's Vilapmika, which is extreme lamentation. And then this one is sorrow that we have come to this world. So it's specifically describing sorrow that I have come to this world. So one is expressing that I'm very humble and low, and I'm very unqualified. So which is very important when approaching God, to feel humility. The other one is just lamenting in general, that the material world, how I've become entangled in the material world. And then the third type is lamenting that I've fallen from the material world. So these are 3 distinctions. So we'll read text number 7. So there are 3 texts, so we'll only chant the last one. I will just read the verse and translation for these first 2. Avadayam stada vyomni vaditrani gana gana gayanti tam smagandharva nityanti apsaro muda. So this is the translation. At the time of his descent on earth, demigods in the form of raining clouds sounded musical instruments in the sky. The celestial musicians, the Gandharvas, sang the glories of the Lord, while celestial dancing girls, known as Apsaras, danced in joyful ecstasy. Text number 8. Petu sumannaso divya kecharai apavarjita praseduscha disha sarva ambhamsi cha manamsi cha. At the time of the Lord's appearance, the demigods flying freely in the sky showered flowers. All the directions, all the waters, and everyone's mind became very satisfied. Purport. It is learned herewith that in the higher sky there are living entities who can travel through the air without being hampered. Although we can travel in outer space, we are hampered by so many impediments, but they are not. We learn from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam that the inhabitants of the planet called Siddhaloka can travel in space from one planet to another without impediment. They showered flowers on the earth when Lord Kapila, the son of Kardama, appeared. Number 9. So we can repeat this, everybody. So please try to sing along, repeat along. Tat Kardama Shrama Padam Sarasvatya Parishritam Swayambhu Sakam Rishibhir Marichi Adirbhir Marichi Adibhir Abhayat Marichi Adibhir Abhyayat. So one of the Prabhus and one of the Vaishnavis, if they would like to repeat, to save time, only one each. So don't jump all at once, please. Anyone want to try? So we'll read the synonyms. Tat, that. So the word that is literally cognate with tat in Sanskrit. So it directly comes from the Sanskrit. Kardama. So the word cardamom doesn't come from kardama. So there's not an etymology there. Ashrama padam. To the place of the hermitage. So this is not hermitage, okay? In Stockholm. Saraswatya. By the river Saraswati. Parishritam. Surrounded. Swayambhu. Brahma, the self-born. Sakam, along with. Rishivihi, the sages. Marichi, the great sage Marichi. Adivihi, and others. Abhyayat, he came there. Translation. Brahma, the firstborn living being, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Brahma is called Swayambhu because he is not born of any material father and mother. He is the first living creature and is born from the lotus, which grows from the abdomen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Therefore, he is called Swayambhu, self-born. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuri Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shatri Putramatra Surupam Rupam Tasya Agarjam Urupuri Matrim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Parita Kripaya Shigurum Tam Natosmi Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthai Vutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very interesting set of verses, So some of us were here yesterday and the days prior to that, and some were not. So therefore, we will just cover the basic storyline until verse number 7. So, in the a long time ago, there was Kardama Muni and Devahuti, whose job it was to help become, in text 5 it mentions here, one of the Prajapatis, or one of the progenitors. And it's very important because, as we know, even in this modern world, without family life, without having children, so human society will become extinct, right? I was actually discussing that yesterday with Narada. Any culture which doesn't put loving family relationships as the primary goal over business and making money, ultimately will self-destruct. It's in one sense a suicidal society, because every society requires a healthy bottom-heavy population. In other words, the younger age group should be slightly bigger than the older age group. If there are too many old people and too little young people, that society becomes vulnerable, because defense requires young people. The elderly are not supposed to fight, and they also cannot really fight because their bodies are weaker. And also, even in a capitalist world, then for the economy you need to have more people working than people on the pension, right? Just like in the West, every few years they raise the pension age because they can't afford to pay for the elderly's pensions. My parents are just about to, my father in 2 years will become a pensioner, and now they're adjusting it so that way there is only a pension based on what assets you have. So if they see you have lots of assets in your bank, like £1 million, then they will reduce your pension, even though prior they said you'll get a pension from the state equally, regardless of economic class. But now they're saying, okay, we don't want to give people money, so therefore we cannot take it from the poor because then they will die. So we'll take it from the people who have saved up money during their life. So it's very funny in this world. Whenever they want to make a change, to make things equal, they make us equally less rich, not equally more rich, right? They're never like, we'll make the society more equal, so we'll give more money to the poor. But they take more money from those who have money. So that's the nature of this world. So in all aspects of life, having family, having children is very important. And therefore they had this divine duty of not only bringing nice children to help spread the human race all over the planet, but also dharmic children, in other words, Krishna conscious children. So this was Kardama and Devahuti's job. So he fulfilled all of his duties as a great yogi, and he became a first-class qualified man. And as Prabhupada explains, the man should become first class, then he's qualified to take a first-class wife. Sometimes in the modern age, the men are very weak, so then they're not qualified, and then it spoils the parampara system. So that's why we have to do training, ashram training, right? And different types of training. So in the same way, the woman should also be first class. So therefore, both the man and the woman, they should study dharma and practice dharma under senior authorities. And that way, both Kardama and Devahuti, they were first class. And they were so first class that God himself decided to become born in their family. So Kardama worked very hard, doing very intense austerities. Then when it was time to do the job of being a progenitor, then he took up his household ashram, and he actually took Devahuti on a very wonderful honeymoon around the universe. And then later on, now they're taking up this duty. So in text number 3, it's saying that God will bless you. So worship the God with great faith, and God will bless you. So then, through worshipping God, it says in text 6, which was yesterday's text, that the Lord, Madhusudana, we heard yesterday Madhusudana, right? He actually appeared in the womb of Devahuti because they had pleased him, and he was very happy that he could take this birth in their family in order to teach about Bhagavata Dharma. And it explains, we were hearing yesterday, that the Lord appears, we can see the verse, number 6, that Jagye Agnir Iva Daruni. So Lord appears just like when there is fire in wood. So sometimes we say fire comes from wood, right? In one sense. But the fire literally didn't come from the wood, but fire already existed, but through the wood it became lit. So the wood became lit by the fire. So, but that heat element is always there. That's called Agni. So it's one of the 8 elements. Sometimes we say radiant energy. So the fire, when it mixes with the wood, then the wood also becomes lit. So therefore, the Lord was not created from the semen, because God is never created, but He went inside of the semen of Kardama to appear. Generally, when God appears, we heard yesterday also about what is called immaculate conception, or in other words, somebody who is very great, specifically God, they are born without actually needing the biological process to enter the womb. So they say that also about Jesus. So Krishna also appeared like that. But in this case, he did appear, he entered into the semen. So he was not caused, he was not created when the semen was created. So Bhagavatam is not teaching the chemical theory of life, that human beings are biomechanical machines. So he's actually teaching that the Lord entered into the semen. So in the Vedic conception, there are different ways things are born. Panchatattva Bhagavan ki jai. So one of them is like the English word sweat. I don't know, how do you say sweat in Swedish? Huh? Sweta. Sweat. So in Sanskrit it's called sweda, imagine, same word, or sweat also. So it's quite literally the same word. So the first type of birth, or things where people are born, is through the sweat. So this is explaining, especially in Padma Purana and other texts, they explain what we call Puranic, what's that word? About biology. I forget the word. But basically the Puranic theory of how life comes about. So it's explaining that there are 8.4 million species. And there are different types of species, like Jalaja Navalakani. There are 9 lakhs of things which are born in the water. Jalaja. Jala means water, like Jaladuta. And then there is moving beings, non-moving beings, mammals, and then the last one is human beings. So from human beings, there is about 400,000 types of species. So it doesn't mean on this particular planet, but it means in the material world in general. So we will hear about some other types of humans in the 2 verses from now. And each species is not distinguished based on DNA and based on phenotypes, based on species classification, but actually each body type or type of body is based on the modes of material nature, how they mix. So there are 3 modes of material nature: goodness, what else? What other mode? Passion and ignorance, right? So it's a bit like the 3 primary colors. What are the 3 primary colors? Anyone remember what you learned at school? Even I don't remember. Is it yellow, blue and red, yeah? So when you mix yellow and red, which color do you get? Orange, right? And then say you mix blue and yellow? Green, right? So whenever you mix, you have the 3 primary colors, then you mix those into each one of them, you get 9. Then you mix 9 into 9, you get 81. Then you keep going, then you get 8.4 million colors. So in the same way, that is how there's 8.4 million species. This is how Srila Prabhupada explains it. So therefore, each type of body has a different balance of the 3 modes of material nature. Generally, we say the mode of goodness is the top mode. So therefore, bodies which are superior are the ones superior in the mode of goodness. So therefore, the human being has the opportunity to cultivate this mode of goodness the most. Therefore, human being is considered the most superior. And as Bhagavad Gita explains, that Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. When you're in Sattva Guna, then real knowledge can come about. And not only that, but Prakashakam and Anamayam. That when you cultivate the mode of goodness, things become very clear. So your observational skills grow. Maybe some of you have associated with the very advanced devotees or advanced souls. They actually have a different level of perception. They can see very subtle things. one time Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was a very strict guru and very, very advanced, he was taking prasadam in London, and a devotee cooked for him, his disciple, but he was very strict that I only eat Krishna prasadam, and Krishna prasadam is only able to be, I don't know if the word is produced, but it only comes about through the agency of a devotee, right? So especially in bhakti, then we understand there are basic principles to be followed, right? Like the four active principles, chanting, japa, etc. So he only would take food cooked by those who are initiated devotees. Not anyone could come from the street and he would eat from them. So those who are initiated and following the principles. So he had one disciple and she cooked for him a very big opulent feast. So he was a very big connoisseur of prasadam as well, because he was very sensitive to taste. So she gave him the prasadam and it was very opulent, very delicious. Everyone was even looking at it and thinking, I can't wait to eat the remnants of Maharaj, because it looks like she made such a nice feast. Everything cooked in ghee, ahimsa milk, everything which you dream of. And he just took one bite of the prasadam and then he put it back into his mouth, his hand, and put it back on the plate. He says, please take this plate away. This devotee is not following the principles. And then they took it away. And then later that devotee, then she admitted that she was not following something. So then she made a vow, from this day onwards I will chant 25 rounds as a, what do you call it, payaschita. How do you say that in English? As a rectification. So after that day she became so serious that she started chanting 25 rounds. So she's still doing it till now. And this was before 2001, this story. Imagine, before 2002. So the advanced devotees, they are very, very sensitive. Just by taking one mouthful, he can taste the consciousness of the cook. Similarly, one time my Guru Maharaj, he was in a darshan, so he chastised one of the disciples that initiated devotee means you're supposed to wear tilak, because there are 5 items you receive at initiation, so one of them is tilak. So he said to the devotee, why are you not wearing tilak? You are my initiated disciple. At least when you come before the Guru, you should put on tilak. So he says, please go to the other room and put on tilak and come back. So then he did. And then the devotee came back and he was sitting next to another god brother who didn't have tilak on. And then he was wondering, what's going on? This is he's just bullying me or something. It's not very fair, Sometimes we feel like we're the victim, even though it's not a big deal, right? So then he said to the Prabhu, he says, how come he told me, but he didn't tell you? Everyone else in the room has tilak, we're the only 2 who didn't have. And then he says, actually, whenever I go to work, I put tilak, but I put on Ganga Jal tilak. And then I came from work to here, but I have tilak on, but it's Ganga Jal tilak. So actually, Jayabadaka Maharaj could see the tilak on the guy. That's why he didn't tell him to go and put it on. So there are many stories, but obviously not enough time. So there are different ways that these 8.4 million species are born. One is Swedaja, which means from sweat. Then Udbija, so that means coming from seeds, like trees, plants, etc. Then you have the womb, so that is called Jarayuja. So just like most of us, hopefully we came from our mother's womb. Maybe some of us were born from seeds or eggs, I don't know. And then you have Andaja, so Anda means egg, all of you know that word Andaja. So the material body is created out of these 5 sources. And there are 3 ways in which the material body will disappear. There are 3 main ways. This is described in the Bhagavatam. That Bhashma, Krimi, and Vit, So Bhashma means ashes. So one way is when we die, our body will turn into ash, right? We'll go to the crematorium and our body will get burnt. And then the second way is Krimi. Krimi means worms. So when you bury the body, then generally in the crematorium, the worms come and they eat the bodies, right? So we'll actually become eaten by worms. Or if you, it means also eaten in general, like if you leave a body out, it can also become eaten by, different animals. And then the last one is Vit. So just like vultures may come and eat your body, and then later they will pass stool. So there's 3 ways in which the material body is coming and going. So therefore, this helps us to remember that we are not this material body, because this body, it came from sweat, it came from where else? There were 5 ways material bodies come in this world. First was sweat, and then? Perspiration. Yeah, the same thing, and then? Seeds. It's very easy. You learn this in school, like when you're 10. Then? eggs, the womb, and I think you did all of them, no? I think. Any missing? And then there are 3 ways which the body will disappear. So just like in the Bible it says that we come from the earth and we'll go back into the earth. So that is the nature of this body. So each human body is not meant just to live, to be comfortable and to enjoy and to eat nice food and to sleep in a nice bed, but the goal is dharma. So therefore Kapila, he took birth in this through the semen of Kardama and in the womb of Devahuti in order to teach that we are not the body, we are the soul. The nature of the soul is to love God, and the action of the soul is to serve. So whenever you love someone, you do service, right? Of course, service is the way of expressing love. And unless we find ourselves in God's love, we will never be happy, because the only thing we're looking for as a soul in a material body is real love. But in this world, we just find cheating all the time. We're either cheated by our own selves, by others, or by our mind. So these are 3 ways in which we're cheated. So therefore the Lord appears in that form. Until what time is class? So the Lord appears, but it's not that He comes from a material source. So the Lord is the source of matter. So therefore it's explained that although the Lord maybe appears in a womb, He comes through the semen and is born, and then the egg becomes fertilized in the mother, then it grows up and becomes a baby. It's not that Krishna or Kapila, they are controlled by the material body. But it's explained in the Bhagavatam by Queen Kunti that, does anyone know what she says? How the Lord appears sometimes? Something like to do with dancing? So or acting, you can also say acting. Yeah, exactly. So He appears just like a dancer comes to dance on a stage. So He does a performance. So that is what Leela is. The difference between material activity and spiritual activity is not actually the action in and of itself, but it is a consciousness or the free will behind the activity. That is actually the difference between material activity and spiritual activity. Just like, can you scientifically distinguish prasadam from non-prasadam? If you test the carbohydrates and you test what oil was used, you test how much salt, you cannot distinguish it, right? So the difference is something on the subtle platform, on the transcendental platform. So in the same way, the Lord, He appears just like an actor on a stage. So what is the difference between an actor on a stage who is crying and a real person that's crying? One is doing it for fun, out of free will, or maybe to get paid or whatever it is, as a job. And one is doing it because they're genuinely in distress, right? So Krishna or different avatars, they appear, but the principle of their appearance is that they're coming just to show Leela. Leela means divine play. Divine play means every action you do is not conditioned, it's unconditional activity. Condition means we're controlled, right? Just like we say, I don't need to eat, but after 1 hour, we start to feel hungry, right? So nobody can fast more than 3 or 4 days, right? Then we just die. So actually eating is not lila for us. Eating is force for us. How many of us can go more than 1 day without sleeping? Nobody, right? So that means we're not sleeping out of lila, we're sleeping out of force. So most of what we do in this world, we're doing it out of force, whether it's a subtle force or a gross force. And actually, this is consistent with atheism and not with Christianity. You know why? Because actually the Bhagavad Gita's notion of free will is very similar to atheists in the sense that we actually don't really have free will much in this world. The only free will we really have is that we choose whether we surrender to God or we surrender to the material energy. But once we surrender to material energy, we feel like we have free will, the illusion is there, but actually the modes are pushing us along. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, that Devi Hiesha Gunamai, that this divine energy, which consists of the 3 modes, is the one which is pushing us along. We think in a certain way, like I'm free to be attracted to Swedish music, like what's it called? Trap. So where is Mathura? He didn't come yet, no? So, or he likes more Finnish trap maybe, I don't know. So why do Swedish people like Swedish music? Is it free will or is it conditioned? Why is it that in Nigeria, 90% of population who are young don't listen to Swedish trap, but 90% of the Swedish youth, they do listen to it? Why? Or why is it that certain people they like certain things in one country and certain people like certain things in another country. Just like in India, they like a lot of chili. But in Sweden, do you like chili? Not so much, right? But if you were born in India, you would like chili. So therefore, do you have free will to like chili or not really, no? So our free will in this world is conditional. There are conditions upon it. So therefore, it is not true free will. So that is the same thing that actually atheism says. It says the material body is pushed along by where you're born, by your DNA, by your environment. All of these things, they are what you call causal relationships. So if you can study all of the causal relationships, you can, to a very large extent, predict someone's activities. Just like AI. AI seems like it's real, no? Imagine in 20 years, you can text with AI and text with a human, you may not be able to distinguish. But it's such a high level of programming, conditioning, that you cannot distinguish between the two. There are many videos now also, right? It's hard to tell if it's a real video or a fake video. So in the same way, the modes are controlling us like that. So we feel like we have some free will, but really we're being pushed along in this world. So therefore, when the Lord appears, He's completely free of this quality. He's not pushed along by the modes because He created the modes. So we'll look a little bit at this verse. So when the Lord appeared, the demigods were showering, just like right now He's showering. So they were showering down lots of beautiful songs and praises and playing musical instruments. And the celestial musicians, who are called Gandharvas, they sang different glories of the Lord. So there are two types of human beings that are mentioned here. What we call actually, what is the Sanskrit word for human being? Nara, right? Nara or Manusha also we say, right? But Nara. So there's I forget the Sanskrit, but 400,000 Nara species. So Gandharvas, who are they live in the heavenly planets, they are heavenly musicians. And then there are heavenly dancers, they are called Apsaras. So these two groups of personalities, they came to celebrate the pastime of the Lord taking birth. So we actually learn there are many, many types of human species, but we may not observe all of them on this planet. We may observe here some races, human races. Bhagavatam also describes different races. But these are special beings. So how is it possible that a human being can come in the form of a cloud and sing from the sky? It doesn't make sense, no? So how is it possible? Can anyone give a logical reason why this is not mythology? Sounds very strange, no? There's some angels in the sky and they're singing. Can anyone say, or what do you think, Mukunda Prabhu? Seems very illogical, no? How can human beings be in the sky? Maybe a bird, could be a bird in the sky. Sometimes birds sing very sweetly. But how is it that there are human forms in the sky? So here it explains in the next verse that Peitu Sumanasa, so they were throwing flowers also from the sky when the Lord was born, and Kei Charai. So this is Ka or come, it means the sky or space. And Chara means to go, like in Hindi you say Chalo, no? Chalo? So Chara. So these particular beings, their bodies are not made predominantly by Earth's element actually. So you have 14 planetary systems. And the higher the planet, the more subtle are the predominating elements. So what is the most subtle is Earth, right? Is space. And the least subtle is Earth. So in this particular planet, we have earthly bodies. But in the heavenly planets, they have bodies made out of, predominated by different elements. So that makes more sense, but it still seems contradictory. How can you have a body made out of subtle elements, right? Doesn't make sense. But actually, you also experience your body made out of subtle elements 30% of your life. Actually, less than 30, but in that 30%, there is one time when you experience your subtle body only, and not your gross body. When? In this dream state, right? So human beings, they experience 3 primary states. What are the 3 primary states? One is awakened state. So Shami knows, but anyone else know? Awakened state, then? We already said the other one? Dream state, and the third one? Yeah, what is that in English? Anybody know? Deep sleep, right? So when we're in the gross state or the awakened state, then all of our senses are active, right? We can see, smell, taste, touch, hear, think, intellectualize. Our ego is also pumping out many ideas, right? But when we're in the dream state, our 5 primary or gross senses, they are sleeping actually. They're inactive. They're not dead, but they're not active. So when we're in the dream state, our mind is active, our intelligence is active, our ego and our soul is all active. And then in the deep sleep state, only the false ego and the soul are active, the rest are all inactive. So when we're in the dream state and we go flying in the sky, we do many, many things, that is the same experience as demigods in one sense. Because that is made, all of your experience in your dream is only made out of the mind element. It's not made out of the gross elements. But ultimately everything is consciousness. Even the material energy is Krishna's energy, and Krishna's energy is conscious. But it's what is called by, I think, Jiva Goswami or Rupa Goswami, condensed consciousness. So matter is actually, everything is alive. Everything is Krishna's energy. It's all alive. It's all actually dynamic. But it becomes condensed and then it seems to be different. So that's why we say Maya. Maya is an illusion because it appears that this is some dead material energy, but it's actually Krishna. So when you become a pure devotee, everywhere you see Krishna, because actually everything is Krishna's energy, so it's Krishna in one sense. So that's how the demigods, they can fly in the sky, because although they're humans, they have a different type of body with different elements which are predominating. Just like in Indra's planet, the predominating, if I remember correctly, the predominating element is intelligence. So everyone's body is not predominantly earth, but it's the intelligence element. So it's very different. So it's hard to conceive in one sense, unless we give the dream analogy, but we have to understand it like that. And then the last text is explaining how Brahma, who is the firstborn living being, he went personally to visit the birth, to visit Kardama's heritage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. So it says, Brahma went along with Marichi and other sages. So generally this is what are called Sapta Rishis. Anyone heard of Sapta Rishis? Yes. So not only the book set, but there are 7 great sages who appeared at the beginning of the universe, in the creation, and they are all very saintly personalities. So one is Marichi, and there are others, but only Marichi is mentioned in this verse. And what's very interesting is Kardama's hermitage is surrounded by the river Saraswati. So has anyone seen the river Saraswati in India? No, right? So actually river Saraswati to material vision has dried up some 4,000 years ago. So the Saraswati river used to be in between the Yamuna and the Ganga coming down from the Himalayas. And that is one reason that we know that Vedic culture is very old. Because generally when the Christians came to the India, they tried to say that Christianity is older and then Hinduism came later on. But they couldn't justify it very well because the Rig Veda talks regularly about the river Saraswati and how it's flowing. Actually Saraswati, it means very pleasing currents. That's the meaning of the word Saraswati. It's a river with very strong and pleasing currents. So it's a very strong river. And the river Saraswati is very important because it started drying up, even according to modern scientists, I think about 3,800 years ago or 4,000 years ago. So, and we understand that because just after the time of Krishna, many changes in the planet happened after when Kali Yuga started, and the Saraswati river dried up and many things changed in the material, in this world. Like Dwarka became inundated also. So there are different things. So that's another interesting point about the river Saraswati. So these are the points relating to this birth, how the demigods were in the sky singing, they were giving praises, they were playing music for the Lord, they were throwing flowers. And also Lord Brahma and Marichi, he came to visit because he heard about the good news that Devahuti has the Lord who had appeared. So they came when he appeared. So that's the most of the points covered. Are there any thoughts, reflections, questions, comments? Yeah?
I was wondering, because you mentioned like different beings made of different elements, and where Arctics are kind of lowest, and the people who are made of air or ether are like heavenly beings, and then even above that is Brahma and only intelligence. But then the highest element, like when we say the elements, is like after intelligence comes fast and perfect. So how is that? Like, is there a being made of only fast and perfect?
The thing is, I haven't studied this topic so in depth. I never really read it in depth in Prabhupada's books, but it must be somewhere. But I just remember hearing this in a class by one Prabhupada disciple when I was a kid, actually. No, not a kid, I was like 17, and he was giving a class on that topic about how there are different elements, and according to the 14 planetary systems, you start with more subtle and then you get to more gross. It must be somewhere, maybe in the 11th canto, maybe you guys know. But I don't remember studying it specifically, but it must be in the Bhagavatam or somewhere like that. But even in the spiritual world, the body is just made out of only Shakti or Divya Shakti or spiritual energy. So that's why when you see in some verses, because there are many verses which say the Lord is without form. Like it's more in the Vedas or the Upanishads. It says, Natasya Pratima Asti, for example, that there is no form of the Lord or there is no measurement, etc. So, but then we say Krishna had a certain, body, certain color, certain form. So it seems like material, right? So that's why many Hindus, they say actually these are all temporary, but the Brahman, which is impersonal and without qualities, without name, without form, without pastime, is the supreme. But there are two ways to understand statements which describe the supreme as that. The first one is, whenever there are statements describing formless, nameless, qualityless, that's describing the Brahma. Not Brahma, who is the creator, but Brahma. Brahma means yatova imani bhutani jayante tad brahmeti, that where everything comes from is maintained and comes out of, all of that is the Brahma, which is a material energy. Brahma also means brihatvat brihanadvat, the greatest thing in creation, which is God or the spiritual energy. So Brahma is impersonal by nature. Then certain things describe the Lord as inside, right? Like when it's described about Krishna's birth, it also describes the Paramatma also in the Bhagavatam. So there are many verses which describe the Lord, but as the one inside. But then Krishna is also outside, so then how does it work? Because those are describing Paramatma. And the ones which are describing form, name, form, quality, pastime, like Bhagavad Gita, like the Puranas, like certain esoteric aspects of the Upanishads, those are describing the personal form. So that's the first way to resolve. But the second way to resolve is, Krishna doesn't have a form. It sounds controversial to say, no? Technically, Krishna doesn't have a form. Krishna is a form. Krishna is his form. Because when you say, I have a form, you're creating a duality between me and my form. But Krishna and his form is absolute. So there's no border between this is me and this is my form, right? Like Ramai, if I cut his nail, so part of his form will come on the floor, right? Isn't it? If you clip your nails or you shave your head, they need to shave, right? They need to shave. So if you shave the head, then all of your hair goes on the floor, right? So your form and you are separate. But Krishna and his form is absolute. So therefore, it's not Krishna's name, Krishna's form. Krishna has a name, Krishna has a form, Krishna has a pastime. Krishna is his name, Krishna is his form, Krishna is his pastimes. So therefore, Vicharu Prabhu gave a class once, and then he says to everyone, so how many of you like to chant Hare Krishna? This was to a group of new Indians, and they were mainly Gujaratis. And then they were saying, we love to chant Hare Krishna. He says, but I'm not sure how many of you have a lot of faith. How many of you believe that Krishna is in his name? Then everyone put their hand up. He says, all of you are wrong. Krishna is not in his name. Krishna is his name. So it's a subtle point, but that's actually technically the truth. Krishna does not have a form. Krishna is his form. Because otherwise there's a duality between the soul and the form, right? So in the spiritual world, everything is just made out of consciousness. So our consciousness is our form in the spiritual world, our swarup. It's not a separate thing. Whereas every body we have, millions of bodies we may have in the material world, they are all in the platform of duality. But our spiritual form is our consciousness. It's the same thing. So it's hard to understand, right? Because you don't have experience in this world. But that's how it is. So any other thoughts, reflections? Ramai, anything? Anything interesting today? What did you learn? Anything interesting?
The three colors and the three gunas, they became the same amount
Yeah.
at the end. Far out. I didn't know there were so many colors. Or is that the maximum amount of colors? Or
No, you can keep dividing, yeah. So they say 8.4 million species. Actually, I wanted to share something, but because we did the bhajan, like a lot of the class was lost. But I will just share it very quickly in 2 minutes. You'll find it interesting. So, in verse 8 and 9, it's describing omens in one sense. Not omens in a negative sense, but it's describing universal reactions or routine things which happen based on certain things in the universe. So like when the Lord appears, auspicious things happen. When a demon is born in the material world, inauspicious things happen, right? Like it's explained, I forget, was it Hiranyakashipu? It's explained when he was born, there was lightning, thunder, and even people were getting sick suddenly. And they said even, I think it's Hiranyakashipu, even women who are pregnant, their babies would auto-abort. They would die in the womb. Because his presence was so demoniac that even babies in the womb, they would pass away. And the sky was very grey for a long time. Was it Hiranyakashipu? Does anyone remember? It's described in the Bhagavatam. So that is what we call in Sanskrit nimitta gyan, or symptoms in the universe. So I just wanted to share the types of, it's very interesting. So when Krishna went to Gurukul, he studied under a teacher who is my namesake called Sandipani Muni. And he learned 64 arts. So there are many arts, like archery. Like one of them is Krishna learned how to speak to animals also. So another of the 64 subjects Krishna learned at school was the art of the symptoms in the universe. How to see what is going to happen in the future by symptoms. So one of them is, there are, how many are here? I forget the number. But anyway, there are different symptoms. So one is called Bhoma symptoms. Such as if you see an animal crying, or a river drying up, or birds flying in unnatural ways, then you see maybe something inauspicious is happening. Sometimes when you do a journey and the animal crosses the road, it may mean positive or it may mean negative, depending which animal, etc. Then another one is Utpata. Utpata means some tragedy which happens in the society. Like maybe a king dies, or you have an auspicious place like a temple, and then lightning hits. That means something inauspicious may be about to happen. So then you have Ulkapata. So that means in the sky you may observe certain things. Like anyone seen shooting stars in the sky? Shooting stars, meteors, so many things which may happen, comets. So these also, one who is trained in Nimitta Gyan, they can read them and they can predict what's happening, whether it's something very big, small, positive, negative. They can actually read the signs. It's like astrology. And then another one is Swapna. So anyone seen, like for instance, you had a dream and then a snake appears or does something in a dream, or like certain animals or things like that. So that's another type of nimitta, which is in the dreams it can tell you something which is about to happen in your life through these subtle signs. Then another one is called Anga. Anga means, some of you know the word Anga, limbs, right, of the body. Like Gaur Anga means golden limbed, Lord Chaitanya. So twitching of the eye. Anyone get like twitch in one eye? Anyone had it before? So even I used to get sometimes. So they say, I don't know why, I actually got a twitch. I'll be honest with you, it was inauspicious, but nothing happened to me, so I don't know. I didn't get sick, I didn't get hit by a car. Well, it doesn't happen anymore. But you get if a right eye twitches, it says here, before a journey, for instance, then it can be positive or negative. Or like hands trembling, not if you have a medical condition, but just in general. If you suddenly start trembling, things like that. So the Manusmriti says, if your right eye is twitching, then it's auspicious. And if your left eye twitches, it's inauspicious generally. But much more than that, I cannot say, yeah?
Is it not different for men and women?
It may be, I don't know, I'm not expert on this topic. This is just one quote. But I can give you a book. If anyone's interested, after class I'll give you a book which is in-depth about this topic. And then another one is like lakshana, so different signs. For instance, if you see a cow, it's an auspicious sign. So you're about to do an exam, and then as you're walking to the thing, a cow passes in front of you, it means you may get A in your exam. So you all graduated now, it's too late, but anyway. Then the last two is Vyanjana, which means facial expression. So that's an obvious type of symptom. When you're speaking to someone, just through the face, you can read exactly what they're thinking, right? Can anyone do that when they see their friend? And then they're like, I can tell by the way you look in your face, you're lying, or you're scared, nervous, etc. And the last one is sounds. So, for instance, hearing something from the sky, or you may hear Om, or sometimes devotees describe they heard Krishna talking to them, something like that. So these are the different types of nimittas. So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If anyone wants that book, I can give you the information. It's very interesting. These guys, Ramayan ki jai. Oh, did it?